Hello everybody and a very, very warm welcome to Paul Ricard, where we are preparing for the second race of the León Eurocup season. And it is the 5.8 kilometre challenge of the former home of the French Grand Prix that awaits the drivers over the next 11 laps, or if we have the intervention of a safety car, 40 minutes or so. So hello from myself, Ben Evans, and welcome to an absolutely beautiful day in Provence. It is reasonably mild, but the track temperature just beginning to warm up perfectly. We've had the crowds actually queuing to come in here since about 8 o'clock this morning, getting ready for a very full day of international motorsport. And the 28-car entry for the León Eurocup is certainly something to look forward to. Well, yesterday's race saw Mikel Ascona, newcomer to the championship for this season, convert pole position into an unchallenged race victory. Behind, though, we were treated to some absolutely fantastic racing as Stiaan Poulsen fought his way up the grid, and reigning champion to second place, reigning champion Paul Rosell then completed the podium. I'm joined once more by Javier from SEAT, and what's the news from the paddock overnight? And also, it was a very clean race yesterday as well. We didn't have much in the way of contact as we work our way down the grid. So pole position then is going to be Manuel João, because this is the top 8 from qualifying reversed. Second place then is Stiaan Poulsen. He's got to be confident of a victory today after his pace yesterday. Lucille Cipriano started well, but then faded as the race went on. I just wonder if she possibly overexerted the Yokohama tyres a little bit too heavily early on. Paul Rosell missed consistency last year on the way to the championship. Started this season with a 3rd place already, and lining up from 4th. He would be hopeful of another podium finish today, but the strength in depth of this championship is incredible. Fran Rueda was in the podium places all the way through the race until the last lap when he was passed by Paul Rosell. He wants to be on the rostrum. Sixth on the grid then for Jordi Oriola. So Jordi Oriola is another teenage driver looking to progress now. One of the talking points of yesterday's race was the problem for Julien Brichet. He was right up there and then forced into retirement. And then 8th on the grid for yesterday's winner, Mikel Ascona, the runner-up in last year's Clio Eurocup, making the switch to León Eurocup for this season. As the sun shimmers off the cars. Another driver who showed very strongly was Alex Morgan in the Papora motorsport car. Morgan, who has raced Clios in the UK with some success, fought his way through the pack to finish in 5th in really his first season of international competition. Exactly, Manuel João can absorb the pressure. We'll see the rest of the grid then. So 10th place is Guillaume Mondron, 11th Costa Rican Mauricio Hernandez, who went well, 12th the second of our lady drivers, Amalia Viñez, the Andorran. Clément Mathieu had disappointment yesterday. He was punted into a spin. Jürgen Schmal, another driver who showed strongly. Andrina Guga will be hoping to progress from 17th. The Marie Baus-Coppens, fortunately for her, faded during the course of the race yesterday, so she'll be looking for a top 20 finish. Lorenzo Bierau de Vega was an early retirement with mechanical issues. And Zolt Szabo was a driver to be found in the thick of the action. Adina Bus was another driver who had a pretty trying day. Mladen Lazuzic should progress from the back of the grid, as will Marco Pellegrini. So 28 of them. They look immaculate. They've got the sighting lap ahead of them. Then it is going to be an 11-lap race. And what we've always seen is this second race of the weekend. The first race, everybody's thinking a little bit more tactically. The second race, they're thinking, well, we've got nothing to lose, let's go for it. Yeah. I'd imagine that some of the more cynical team managers have already set the sat-nav in the truck to go via the SEAT racing department on the way to Estoril in case they come into contact with anything. So away we go then on the formation lap, and Manuel João was out of sorts yesterday, and we couldn't work out, was this a case of him just being conservative, knowing he had pole today, or did he not have the car working as he wanted? And what we saw all the way through last year's competition was that Manuel João, when he wants to be, is about the toughest driver to overtake. He knows perfectly where to position the car, but we could be in for battle royal here because we've got the likes of Stian Poulsen who'll try to pass anywhere. Julien Brichet needs points, and then we've got the teenagers, Fran Reda, Jordi Oriola, who will just be looking to fight through, and of course Michael Ascona, well, he is looking for the double. Yeah, as he was saying yesterday in Parc Ferme when we heard from him, all he wants to do today is win, but the key is not to do too much on the first lap of the race. Let the tyres come in, let the race unfold, and then pick your way up the order. And that's what we saw from Stian Poulsen, was that he didn't do anything too brave in the early stages of race one, but then as the race unfolded, he really started to push. So the driver's just getting a little bit of heat into the machinery now along the Mistral straight. We're running on the full configuration of the Paul Ricard circuit. This is the chicane now, which sits in the middle of the Mistral straight before they head on to the Courbe du Cygne, but despite that, they're still achieving top speeds of well in excess of 200 kilometres an hour. And we've seen quite a few times this weekend, because the television picture, you can see it's a beautifully sunny day. It's not actually that hot outside, and they're going to have to be careful on that first lap not to be over-ambitious with some of their braking zones. So there is the white, grey and black car of Michael Ascona, yesterday's race winner. Fortunately for viewers at home, many of the target cars are similar colouring in terms of the fluorescent green, black and white. Manuel João in pole position, well, he has got the very distinctive orange, green and white livery, and then Stian Poulsen, that is an all-white car for Stian. Lucille Cipriano, another predominantly white car, but she has got some grey flashes on hers, and then Paul Rosell is a white car with the blue bonnet. And there is Guillaume Mondron, driver who unfortunately was forced into retirement during yesterday's race, but showed strongly until that happens, so he will be aiming to pick his way up through the order as Julien Brichet in the immaculately prepared JSB competition metallic blue livery comes to a halt. Julien, who came so close to winning the title last year, eventually finishing third in the standings. Manuel João, our pole sitter, finished second in the standings last year. He had 2 victories, both of which came late on in the season. So rolling to his pole position there is Manuel João, the very popular Portuguese driver. Second on the grid, the Norwegian Stian Poulsen. And now we have a pretty endless wait, because we've got 14 rows of cars to come to a halt. That's Marie Bauskopens, the 21 car. And then the number 4 car of Home Front. Stepped in at the last minute, a beautiful all-silver livery for Jean-Laurent Navarro as the 17 car of Madame Lezuzik comes into position, which means we get the green flag waved from the marshal at the rear of the pack. We look towards the gantries, the red lights come on, out they go, and the race is underway. Who's got a good start? It's not a good start from Michael Ascona, it's a brilliant start from Manuel João. Julien Brichet also quickly off the line as they sprint towards turn 1. Stian Poulsen busy defending second position. They're all converging to the inside of the road as they flick through. It's João from Poulsen, then it's Rosell and Rueda disputing third place. Paul Rosell has to take evasive action across the escape route. So does Home Front as well, actually, as they then... And we've got one of the laying cars in trouble at the very back of your picture as João leads into the first really heavy braking zone. There's contact behind and a little bit of an instant. They somehow managed to avoid each other. It's Jürgen Schmal who got caught up in that, I think, with actually Andrina Guga, his teammate. They all jostled through, but Manuel João, the perfect start from pole. The other driver who didn't get away quite as well as he would have liked is Michael Ascona, who is now looking to recover, looks to the inside of Julien Brichet into the chicane. He has got Lucille Cipriano and Alex Morgan just behind. 3 or 4 wide, a little bit further back in the midfield. This is what we want to see. Yes, but she would probably argue that there was nowhere for her to turn into the corner, and therefore what could she do? As Poulsen really coming at João. Then in third place it's Fran Rueda, 4th Paul Rosell, 5th is Jordi Oriola. Home Front again taking a big bite to curb into the Double Droit de Beausset to the inside of Amalia Vinez. They give each other extra room. Oh, and contact between Poulsen and João. Stian Poulsen went for the move, and Manuel João gets drop kicked into a spin. What a shame. And Manuel João rejoins, but a long way down the order. So Stian Poulsen leads, Fran Rueda in second. It's very difficult to say until the replay, but we saw this a couple of times yesterday, that through these long left-handers, the cars just naturally understeer out, and you've got to give room to the car at the inside. Yeah. Well, there is the damage to the front headlight of Poulsen's car, and he concedes the lead now to Fran Rueda. So it's Rueda who takes the advantage from Stian Poulsen. Michael Ascona doing a good job working up through the order, and Manuel João is down into 12th position. As behind there, 4 wide. Oh, that's going to be very, very close. They all skittle through. And, well, Jordi Oriola was in the middle of it. Lucille Cipriano and Alex Morgan with the others involved, as now Julien Brichet makes his move up to third place to the inside of Paul Rosell. You don't know where to look, do you? It's all happening. It is quite the start to the race. We're only on lap 2 of 11, and Fran Rueda it is who leads. Julien Brichet is lining up for a move here on Stian Poulsen into the chicane, and looks to the inside. He goes for the move, and Paul Rosell tries to follow through. That gap closes in the blink of an eye, and I just wonder whether Poulsen's picked up a little bit of damage, because he seems to be off the pace since that contact with João. And yeah, so Paul Rosell goes through into the Courbe de Seine. So Stian Poulsen is under investigation for that incident with Manuel João. I suspect at the very least he'll probably be buying Manuel a glass of wine later on this evening, as Poulsen, it's in a straight line that's hurting him. I just wonder whether the airflow on the car's been disrupted slightly, because through the corners, well, no. I think you're right, the wheel and the tracking is just out of alignment, and it's really hurting him. And he's now got Mikel Ascona all over his tail. And then behind Ascona, it's Jordi Oriola, then it's Lucille Cipriano and Mauricio Hernandez. Manuel João looking to recover up through the order as best he can. He's just up behind Guillaume Mondron in the battle for 11th and 12th position as Ascona looks to the inside of Poulsen and claims the place. So Mikel Ascona goes up into 4th position. Not bad from 8th on the grid as a return from the opening couple of laps. There is the Belgian driver Mondron under pressure from João. I think for the battle for the lead of the race, what will be fascinating is to see how quickly Mikel Ascona can find a way past Paul Rosell and Julien Brichet, and then maybe set off in pursuit of Fran Rueda. Rueda finished 8th in last year's championship, was on the podium at the Nürburgring, and yeah, 1.4 seconds was his advantage at the end of the last lap. Brichet's closed up a little bit this time around, as now Jordi Oriola looks to the inside of Stian Poulsen, and Poulsen doesn't give him masses of space. Oriola, though, finds some for himself and powers past, heading on to the second section of the Mistral straight. They've got Lucille Cipriano and Mauricio Hernandez just in behind them. As Rueda turns through the Courbe du Sine, that leading quartet of cars. Then this gaggle behind Oriola, the white machine of Poulsen, then the red and white car, Lucille Cipriano. Car at the back of the queue is the Costa Rican Mauricio Hernandez, and Hernandez trying to force his way to the inside Lucille Cipriano, and I think he's going to do it. Indeed he does. Yeah, I'm racking my brain struggling to think of another Costa Rican driver who's raced at this level in Europe, and Mauricio Hernandez doing a fine job. It's his teammate Jordi Oriola who leads this queue, and Oriola doesn't really want to get involved in a fight here. He'd like to get onto terms with the leading quartet if he possibly can, but as they squabble, it's bringing Alexander Morgan and also Mario Dablanda into that scrap. Now, that was a good lap for Julien Brichet. He has halved the advantage that Fran Rueda had. Yeah, Mauricio Hernandez past Stian Poulsen, and Lucille Cipriano also trying to make it 3 wide. That's going to be a little bit precarious on the brakes. Cipriano to the inside, goes for the move. She can't quite fashion the space. She keeps her foot in. Alex Morgan. Oh no! Contact between Mauricio Hernandez and Lucille Cipriano, and she so nearly pulled it off. She seemed to turn into the path, possibly, of Hernandez to get the line for the next turn, and it's a real pity that battle has ended in contact. And Cipriano pulls off into retirement as Rosell looks inside of Julien Brichet. Brichet sees him coming, defends, and that's all good news for Fran Rueda and possibly Jordi Oriola. As here comes Alex Morgan, and that's because Mauricio Hernandez has got a badly damaged car as well, and is sadly going no further in this race. And I'd like to see that instance again, because it was a very strange one. The change of direction. Another driver that is in trouble is Dominik Fetka, the Hungarian, so he comes into the pits. Now this is interesting because we've got the battle between Brichet and Rosell, but as they fight, they're actually moving away from Mikel Ascona at the moment. meanwhile, we've got the notification on our timing screen that the instant between Stian Poulsen and Manuel João, the race director, having reviewed the available footage, has decided that there'll be no further action taken. So here's another look at it. Well, Poulsen went for a gap that João started to close a little bit too late, and I would... Yeah, that's... And that is very strange, because Lucille Cipriano, it seems as if she just lost the car on the change of direction, and that was the issue. Meanwhile, Clément Mathieu and Marie Bauscapens doing battle. So now we are focusing our attention on the fight for 6th place. It's Alex Morgan in the white and black car ahead of the grey and orange car, Mario de Blanda, and then Stian Poulsen with damage flapping. He is just about to be caught by Manuel João, who will probably feel none too amused about the incident earlier on. But as we saw, it was one of those ones where Poulsen saw a gap, he went for it, and then suddenly it closed. We have got waved yellow flags into the chicane for the Mistral Straight. That's why, because Lucille Cipriano trying to limp round to the pits, and Brichet and Rosell are much closer to Fran Rueda, and we're only on lap 5 of 11. So this has got plenty of time to unfold. Thank you for your company on this Sunday morning here for live Seat Eurocup action in Paul Ricard. And the safety car comes out. The safety car has been scrambled, and there's another broken car in the background, and I think it's one of those where there are cars pulled off on 3 or 4 corners. It's easier to send out the safety car and neutralise the race. It allows the marshals to race in safety. I think so. So we have still got an abundance of time left on the race clock, by the way, something like 28 minutes. So the safety car shouldn't prevent us getting in our allocation of laps. It's worth having a quick run through the classification for you. So Fran Rueda leads it from Julien Brichet. Then it's Paul Rosell in 3rd, Michael Ascona in 4th, Jordi Oriola in 5th, Alex Morgan in 6th, Mario de Blanda in 7th, Stian Poulsen in 8th, Manuel João is 9th. And then Guillaume Mondron completes the top 10, just ahead of Jürgen Schmal and Amalia Vignes. And Amalia looking set to claim the Lady Drivers' Trophy at the moment, with the instant befalling Lucille Cipriano. Well, it's a busy start to the year for the Seat León Eurocup, because from Paul Ricard we reconvene at the Estoril circuit in just a fortnight's time. So this is the second running this season of the revived Seat León Eurocup, and actually the first 2 events are at new circuits for the drivers, as that is home front with big problems in the front left. So the safety car is out, the rescue team go to work. The Audi seems somewhat diminutive as the rescue car to tow away the set. There is Stefano Zanini, who currently circulates in 22nd position. He's actually the last runner that we've still got. Everybody else has fallen by the wayside. So now the restart in the next few laps is going to be crucial, because the battle amongst leading 4 was closing up, but we've got the quick drivers, particularly Oriola and Morgan, who were going at a similar pace to those at the front, but couldn't close the gap down. Well, now that gap's been closed for them. Stian Poulsen has got a wheel arch or something along those lines flapping in the breeze as a result of his adventures with Manuel João earlier on. Yeah, that could get quite tasty between the pair of them. I mean, it was a racing incident in that Manuel João probably left it a little bit too late to close the door, and it's often the rule that if you're past the rear wheel of the car when the door's closed, it was probably the legitimate move, and Poulsen was more or less halfway alongside João at the point at which they made contact. At the same time, I think Manuel would feel quite aggrieved that Poulsen was risking a pass for the lead so early in the race, when they could have worked together to try and gap the rest of the field. Now, the wild card for me is Mikel Ascona. He doesn't quite seem to have the pace of yesterday's race, but he's there right at the front of the field. So we have got an extra 2 laps credited to the race because of the intervention of the safety car, which is good news. But I think we're probably going to be having another lap behind the safety car, because as you could see, the car of Home Font requiring a little bit more assistance in terms of its recovery. So we should get one more lap behind the safety car before the race gets underway. We've got 24 minutes left on the race clock, so notwithstanding, we should get the number of laps completed before we run out of time, which is good to see. Now we could be in for quite a good battle actually in the ladies' trophy, because Amalia Viñez is going well, but Marie Belskapens is only a couple of places back in 15th, and she's got Andrina Guga and Adina Bus a couple of spots behind her. Yeah, and Amalia knows the car reasonably well, and Andrina Guga has moved across from the FA European Touring Car Cup, where she's been competing for the past couple of seasons, and so over the line we go. This is the conclusion of the 6th of now 13 laps. And Dina Bus, 21st in last year's championship. So the breeze just beginning to whip up a little bit here as well. And the trees inside their contributors just beginning to wave slightly. But a healthy crowd, Paul Ricard, today to enjoy the action. So we're quite... I think it's worth saying, because we've got Estoril in a fortnight's time, then we're on to Silverstone the 6th and 7th of June, the Red Bull Ring the 4th and 5th of July, Nürburgring 19th and 20th of September, Monza 3rd and 4th of October, and then Barcelona 31st of October, 1st of November. If you are going to come to any of those events, then please take the opportunity to visit these cars in the paddock. The drivers and the teams are more than happy to meet you, sign autographs, talk about the cars. It's a really friendly paddock. The cars look great, and it's a great way to see some of these cars up close. So do make sure that you visit the Seat León Eurocup website to pick up all the details about tickets for those future events. And we very much hope to see you in person at some of the races later on through the season. So yeah, it really depends. The 2 cars that were in the most exposed positions were Mauricio Hernandez and Home Font, and hopefully they've been able to find a way to remove both of them. And if that's been the case, then we might get the safety car coming in at the end of this lap, which would be very good news indeed, we will. Confirmation on our timing screen that the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. And so it will then be the responsibility of Fran Rueda to bunch the field and then decide at what moment he wants to pull the pin, because a good safety car restart, he could buy himself a second or so, which is not a hugely comfortable buffer, but it's enough to withstand pressure for a lap or so. Yeah, what I think Fran would really like is Paul Rosell and Michael Ascona to start pressurising Julian into turn one. But Paul Rosell and Ascona are both probably a little bit too wily to fall for that one. So we're just at the Double Joie de Beausset, so it's going to be about a minute or so before they get back to the start and finish straight for the race to get underway. We're coming to the end of the 7th of 13 laps. We're going to have 6 racing laps to look forward to when we do get going. Might possibly revert to time. I don't think we will, so that is good news. You probably put the curse of the commentator on them now by saying that. If there's 22 cars left running at the end of the race, then that will do very nicely. But it's just the case. These cars are so evenly matched. There's so many of them on the grid because it's such a popular championship that in the early stages, it's always going to happen that you're going to be 3 or 4 wide in some of the corners, and that is when it all gets a little bit precarious. So we have got Fran Rueda really backing the field up, waiting for the perfect moment to accelerate on his way, get this race back and restarted. And he goes now. He goes very early, does Fran Rueda. Julian Brichet's gone with him. Paul Rosell caught out a little bit possibly, and it's enabled Rueda and Brichet to get a big buffer over the rest of the field. Rosell under pressure from Ascona at Oriola. And Morgan Zhao has a moment. And was that contact with Stian Poulsen? I don't know. But Manuel Zhao has a moment coming out of the final turn and has dropped behind Amalia Vinez. And it's turning into a little bit of a nightmare day for Manuel Zhao. He's also been demoted by Jürgen Schmal as well. Stian Poulsen gets up to pace. They hurtle through the opening couple of corners. And there is Schmal and Vinez. We've then got such a gap between Julian Brichet back to Paul Rosell, which is a real pity, really, in terms of how we were hoping that the race would possibly unfold. But nonetheless, if Rueda and Brichet start battling, that could bring Rosell back into the mix. Here's Jean-Laurent Navarro, running a little bit lower down the field in 17th place or thereabouts. He's got Dina Boost just behind him. Right, here's another look at it. Oh, it was contact between Guillaume Mondron and Manuel Zhao. It's probably fairly safe to say that there were some words in Portuguese we can't broadcast that were being uttered in Manuel Zhao's helmet then, because the last thing you expect is contact before you get to the start and finish line after a safety car. Meanwhile, Mario de Blanda has found a way past Alex Morgan as Mondron to the inside of Amalia Vinez. Manuel Zhao looking to recover. Just wondering if and he goes around the outside of the go. Mondron, that was possibly Mondron getting a call on the radio from the team saying, give the space, as now Stian Poulsen trying to force his way past Alex Morgan. Morgan in turn behind de Blanda. Not unsurprisingly, the safety car restart is under investigation for a variety of reasons, as the leading 5 cars, all the way back towards Oriola, have just broken clear of the fight for 6th position, as out of Virage Dupont, the leading group of cars over the line. This then completes lap 8 of the race, just 5 to go. Fran Rueda, our race leader, from Julian Brichet, Paul Rosell and Michael Ascona. Then Jordi Oriola in 5th. And the leading quintet, they're all slightly spaced at the moment, but Brichet and Rosell are coming on to Oriola. Then we've got a slight gap back to Michael Ascona. Meanwhile, Jürgen Schmal nowhere near the apex into turn 1. Manuel Zhao looking to recover well. Drina Guga's got the next group behind her. Yeah, that would be very awkward as Xiao having to defend now from Vinicius. He's found a way past her. Guillaume Mondron looking to do much the same. Amalia able to cover the line just in time. They've got Marco Pellegrini, I think it is, just up behind them. Indeed, it is the 67 car of Pellegrini. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Rueda is now having to start to defend from Julien Brichet. And Brichet considers showing his hand into the chicane along the Mistral Straight, and with good reason, because Paul Rosell and Michael Ascona are joining into that fight. Paul Dioriol has not quite got the pace to stay with them at the moment. It seems as if Stian now just understands what his car's doing and where he's picked up the damage, and is able to drive around it a little bit more. But we have potentially got a fantastic fight for victory on our hands if this leading quartet can close up. The real key is whether or not Julien Brichet and Paul Rosell start to fight with each other, or whether they work together to close in onto the tail of Fran Rueda. I'd suggest with 4 laps to go that Rosell is better off just sitting behind Brichet, not challenging, and trying to close the gap to the leader down. Yeah, Ascona can only really close the gap to the leaders when they really start fighting with each other. In clear air, he's struggling as Rosell looks to the inside of Julien Brichet, and Brichet's car beginning to move around. Oh, and Brichet runs out very wide through turn 1. Doesn't even appear in our camera angle. So I suspect that he will probably have joined behind Paul Rosell. He doesn't. That may incur a conversation with the race director. But Julien Brichet, not only did he rejoin in front of Paul Rosell, he's actually closed the gap back down to Fran Rueda as well. Leading group of cars covered by just 1.8 seconds. We are on lap 9 of 13. If you just joined us, expecting 11 laps, should explain that because we've had the interruption of the safety car, we've had 2 laps credited to the race distance. Down the back straight, our race leader, Fran Rueda. And this has been a really mature weekend from Fran. He drove well yesterday, but he's out front and looking unflustered. Well, we have had the team managers of cars 13 Amalia Vignes, 33 Jordi Oriola and 45 Guillaume Mondron summoned immediately to race control. I suspect to discuss the safety car restart and almost certainly not to help them finish off the last uneaten croissants from breakfast. So that is, we will keep our eyes open for any penalty. But Rueda, having built that little buffer on the restart, Julien Brichet isn't closing the gap down to him. And Rueda, although he's never been far out front, he's never been particularly threatened either, as now Morgan defends from Stian Poulsen, and Poulsen forces his way to the inside of the Virage Dupont and makes the move stick. Just as you were saying, Poulsen was looking racy, but Morgan somehow rejoins in front of him. So the leaders with 3 laps to go. The leading trio have now broken clear of Michael Ascona. And this is the point of the race at which we begin to think, what have Julien Brichet and Paul Rosell got at their disposal to really pressurise Fran Rueda? Ascona in 4th, nonetheless a 1st and a 4th place and pole position for race 1. be a pretty good return from his weekend's work. Here is a replay of one of the León racing cars making contact with Clément Mathieu. That was the number 12 car, Dejan Balatovic. And then here was the attempted pass from Stian Poulsen. Alex Morgan showing his experience, giving the space. Oh, and a challenge for the lead. Now, was there contact? Let's see. We look at Paul Rosell, and no, Rueda just held on. But it was a brave move from Brichet. Down the back straight we come into the Courbe du Cygne, and somehow they're all in the same order. Oriolo, meanwhile, has been caught by Dablandras. Now Stian Poulsen makes the move stick on Alex Morgan. Oh, a little bit of contact between the pair of them, and Rosell backs off. But all of those adventures have given Rueda a little bit of a buffer out front again. It goes out to about 1.5 seconds. Brichet and Rosell are going to have to close that down, and suddenly Mikel Ascona joins in the fight as well. And the gaps just keep fluctuating as this race unfolds. It's wonderful stuff. Here's another look at it. Racing instant again, but Julien Brichet, maybe with an eye on the bigger picture, could have given a little bit more space to Paul Rosell then. So now Rosell, Brichet and Ascona, the battle for second place. Fran Rueda is looking well set, possibly for a debut Seat León Eurocup victory, because his advantage is 1.3 seconds with 1 2/3 laps remaining. Paul Rosell looking to line up for the move on Julien Brichet once more. And you just wonder with Mikel Ascona whether the steady performance means that he's got a little bit more life left in those Yokohama tyres. Replay of Schmal and Zhao thrusting their way through the chicane. It's down the Mistral straight. The camera angle foreshortens the gaps between the cars just a little bit. Again, Rosell not quite close enough to challenge Brichet, but Brichet flicks it sideways and is beginning to run out of grip fairly rapidly, you'd suggest, Julien Brichet. Well, he's only got just over a lap remaining. The podium place is still very much in dispute. Mario de Blanda just behind Oriola. Stian Poulsen closing in onto the pair of them from 7th position. Rosell not quite close enough to challenge Brichet on this occasion. So here is our race leader, Fran Rueda, who has, despite everything, led almost the entirety of the race after the early contact between Manuel Zhao and Stian Poulsen. And although it's been close, at no point has Rueda really been threatened for that lead. He's just driven consistently, stayed out of trouble, and therefore has got himself into a very good position as he heads into the last lap. His advantage over Julien Brichet and Paul Rosell is going to be just fractionally under a second, but by the standards of this race, that is a reasonably comfortable margin. Brichet and Rosell have momentarily shaken off Mikel Ascona, and Ascona is about 9/10 second back again. So the position most likely to change through the final lap is maybe the one for second and third, as Paul Rosell settles in behind Julien Brichet. But for Rosell, he knows that third place is better than risking everything to try and get second. He had 6 podiums last season, just the one victory at the Salzburg Ring. Julien Brichet had 2 wins along the way as now Rosell looks to line up the move, and Brichet defends very robustly, but he has to concede the space to Rosell. Now who's got the space? Rosell repays the favour. Brichet takes a big bite of curb. There's still door handle to door handle heading out onto the Mistral straight, and Rosell may have made that move stick, and the robust defence suddenly springs Michael Ascona to challenge Julien Brichet towards the Courbe de Seine for the final time. Somebody's tyre had let go as Rosell unbelievably gets passed again by Julien Brichet and almost loses out to Michael Ascona. They head into the Double Droit de Beausset. Oh, maybe a little bit of assistance for Brichet from Rosell. Julien Brichet keeps the car as tight to the inside of the road as you want. And now Rosell running out of opportunities to challenge. Michael Ascona thinking about trying to find a way past as well. Yeah, what price Jordi Oriola on the podium, one might ask, because Ascona is warming up for another crack at Rosell here. Brichet has got away with it, and here is our race winner. Fran Rueda has driven absolutely perfectly all day, and he accelerates through and takes victory in the second round of the Seat León Eurocup. Our runner-up is Julien Brichet, and Paul Rosell just holds on for third from Michael Ascona. Jordi Oriola takes 5th place. Well, that was brilliant, brilliant racing, and still they come across the line. We're waiting for Amalia Vinales. She comes through and wins the Lady Drivers' Trophy in 11th place overall. So Fran Rueda scoring his first Seat León Eurocup victory. And let's have a look then at the final results. So Rueda victorious, 2.3 seconds clear of Julien Brichet. Brichet second place and setting fastest lap, withstanding that pressure from Paul Rosell on the last lap. Michael Ascona in 4th, a good return for him from the weekend. 5th is Jordi Oriola, 6th Mario de Blanda, 7th Stian Poulsen, 8th Alexander Morgan, 9th for Jürgen Schmal. And Manuel Joao completes the top 10 after a disappointing race of adventures. Amalia Vinales 11th, and the winner of the Lady Drivers' Trophy, clear of Guillaume Mondron, Marco Pellegrini and Michael Zemp. And 15th for Marie Baus-Capens, just clear of Jean-Laurent Navarro and Dejan Bilatovic. Adina Bus rounding out the top 20, clear of Andrina Guga, who had problems a little bit late on in the race. So here is a view of the championship. Michael Ascona leading the way, 3 points his advantage over Fran Rueda, with then Paul Rosell in 3rd, but into those 2 third places. Julien Brichet in 4th, sharing 10 points with Stian Poulsen in 5th. That sets us up beautifully for a fortnight's time when we are over in Portugal at the Estoril circuit for the 3rd and 4th races of the season. And if the races are anything like what we've enjoyed this weekend, then that is certainly something not to be missed. Of course, you'll be able to watch all of the racing live in the usual places, and do make sure that you visit the Seat León Eurocup website in between to get all the news from the championship. Well, that last lap through the chicane on the Mistral straight, as you say, no contact between Julien Brichet and Paul Rosell, but it was close. Yeah, so here we see it again. Brichet defends from Rosell. Rosell is absolutely committed to the move, but it's such a tight entry that he runs out wide. He forces Brichet to take evasive action across the curbs. Brichet then understeers in turn and forces Rosell across the curbing. But the drivers shown respect for each other. This is where experience comes in. It's very easy to shut the door too abruptly, to have contact in a situation like that. They gave each other the space they needed, not a single millimetre more than that, but they gave them the space. So we will shortly be hearing from our race winner, Fran Rueda, down in Parc Fermé. And it'd be interesting to get his take on the race, because there were so many talking points. Of course, that first lap collision between Stian Poulsen and Manuel João, but for that contact, it would have been a very different story. And in terms of the championship, the driver who's really lost out this weekend is Manuel João, outside the points in both races. Thumbs up from Julien Brichet to the cameras, and after the disappointment from yesterday, he has bounced back in perfect form. I think he's pleased with that. And celebrates with the team. They've got the car working perfectly. He was very unlucky, really, not to be on the podium in yesterday's race, and so to come through with the win today, a just reward. Brichet rehydrates. You get a sense of just what hot and hard work it is in the cockpit of these cars, and Brichet has given his all over the last 40 minutes or so of racing. And then third place for Paul Rosell. He is just so metronomically consistent, racking up those points finishes. And that's really the key to the championship. And the same for Rueda this weekend, but we've got a long, long way to go, of course. 12 more races through the Seat León Eurocup season. Look forward to it. But here is our race winner.
Race, showing a really consistent pace. Tell us a little bit about your victory.
Well, I did a good race yesterday. I fell asleep in a few laps yesterday, but I knew I had a good rhythm to win. And since the start, I knew if I pull out a gap, I could win. Easily, if I maintain my concentration. And then, well, the safety car was a bit a surprise, but then I did a good restart, and it was an amazing race for me.
Perfect. Congrats.
Thank you.
Delighted for Rueda. Let's take a look back at the highlights of his win. And off the line, it looked as if it could have been a Manuel João benefit, because he rocketed clear while Mikel Ascona bogged down slightly as they headed towards turn one. Rueda was able to get himself up into third position. They all ended up taking a little bit of evasive action. It's behind, it got all very congested in the early stages. Plenty of jostling for position. Julien Brichet was also looking to march up through the field. Big talking point came at the end of the first lap with the contact between Stian Poulsen and Manuel João. That turned the top end of the order around. That contact between Lucille Cipriano, Mauricio Hernandez, and then the retirement for Home Font resulted in the safety car being dispatched, which bunched the field up, and once we got going again, Clement Mathieu was on the receiving end of a little bit of a nudge from Nejan Balatovic. As this was the battle of the race, as Rueda led out front. Paul Rosell, a last lap challenge to Julien Brichet as they arrived into the chicane. Brichet, showing full commitment, kept his foot in and somehow maintained his advantage as they headed towards the Courbe du Cygne. Fran Rueda, though, his first victory in the Seat León Eurocup, and he will be very pleased with his weekend's work. Second place to Brichet, third to Paul Rosell, and fourth place going the way of Mikel Ascona. And it's Ascona, as a result of fourth place today, a win yesterday and pole position yesterday, who leaves Paul Ricard as our championship leader. So the driver's about to be announced onto the podium. Amalia Vinez, of course, is our Lady Racer Trophy winner as well for today. Helped a little bit by the mid-race demise of Lucille Cipriano after that contact with Mauricio Hernandez. So four very happy drivers. So third place for Paul Rosell, who at 23 years old is hardly a veteran. And then Julien Brichet, 34-year-old. Fran Rueda, said just 18. And then Amalia Viñez, the Lady Trophy winner. So the Spanish national anthem in honour of Fran Rueda as we move on to the presentation of the trophies. Once they've been found. So there we go, the third place trophy for Paul Rosell. And one of the things I like is that it's the team managers that present the trophies to the drivers. Yeah, I think it's a really nice innovation for the Seat León Eurocup. And overjoyed, Fran Rueda, that will be taking pride of place, his mantelpiece this evening. So Amalia Viñez gets the trophy for top lady racer. It means that they will quickly pose for the photos. Now you see that is experienced Paul Rosell. He gets the cork ready first. So as they are about to pose the photos and have the champagne fight here in Paul Ricard, it means it's time to say thank you very much for your company in France this weekend. Hope you've enjoyed the racing as much as we have, and we'll look forward to seeing you in a fortnight's time with all the action live from Estoril as the Seat León Eurocup continues.